Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning. And today we've got another combo that we haven't tried, but it's a shell that's shown pretty good promise for what it is, and a choke that's done really well in the couple times that we've tested it so far. So I don't know, hopefully it works out for us, because it definitely is a little bit more towards that budget side of setups, that's for sure. But speaking of the shell we've got today, I brought out some more of the Winchester Super X turkey shells. These ones are a 12 gauge, 3-inch, ounce and 7/8 of number 5 shot, moving about 12-10 feet per second. And while these have not been quite as good as what the Longbeard 5s typically are, they have still been a pretty good cheap option for a turkey shell. I mean, I think these are like $13 a box or something like that. And from what we've tested so far, they're absolutely a viable turkey shell. So I'm definitely curious to see how they perform through today's setup. And as for the setup we've got out here today, I brought out the Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag, and for a choke, I threw this guy in. This is a little bit older, standard Truglo Gobble-Stopper, not the Gobble-Stopper Extreme, but just the standard Gobble-Stopper choke. It's a 679 constriction, so definitely a little bit more towards the open side in general for 12 gauge, but these 835s are overboard, so we're definitely right in the typical turkey choke range for this guy. And for being like $25 or something, it's shown us some good results so far, so I'm hoping it can do well with these other budget Winchester shells as well. But as for the test today, everything is going to be the same as usual. I have the turkey target set up at 40 yards. I also have the chronograph, so we'll be able to get our speed and see how close it is to that 12:10 claim that's on the box. So let's get you guys set up with a view of this target, and we'll take our shot, look at that chrono number, and then go down and see how they actually performed. I don't think we're going to see patterns that look like a longbeard shell today, but my hopes are still high that we have a pretty usable turkey pattern. But there's only one way to find out, so let's go over here and shoot it, see what we can actually get. Alright, so that shell gave us 1264 through our chronograph. The box claims 1210, so we are a little bit above their claim. But from what I can remember in previous tests with these shells, I think 1250 to 1260 range is what we had seen before. So I don't think it's anything too abnormal. And we're not necessarily pushing them too fast just yet, but we are getting a little bit close. But that doesn't really matter if they still patterned well. So let's go down here to our 40-yard paper and see how they actually did pattern. Alright, now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, before anything, we do technically have a dead bird. There is one through the brain, not to mention a couple more that probably would have hit the chest area as well. So you would have gotten this bird. However, as we can clearly see, it's quite a bit more on the open side, that's for sure. This is probably the worst performance we've seen out of these shells thus far. And that might be due to the overboard 835 with that 679 Truglo. These might just prefer the typical 12 gauge bore with something like a 660 or 665 like we've tested previously, because clearly this does not look blown open to me at all. This just looks like not enough constriction. Now, of course, again, it is a very cheap budget shell, so we're not going to get the super tight, super hot Longbeard XR type of patterns, but we've definitely seen way better than this out of it so far. Now, is it good enough to take turkey at 40 yards? Yeah, but I would not push it farther than that, and I would definitely keep it in at closer ranges if this is the setup I was working with. And even if we look closer within here, it's got some gaps and voids, but I don't think it's necessarily inconsistency in the pattern. I think it has more to do with just not enough constriction to get these pellets to group nice and tight together. And even though I do think we might have been just a touch off to the left here, you can see the beginnings of a circular pattern. It's not just completely all over the paper necessarily, even though it is quite a bit more wide open. There is somewhat of a circle pattern right about in that area. It's definitely pretty broad and open, but just another sign that points to these shells are going to want more constriction. It's definitely not my preference in pattern, that's for sure, and I think a lot of you guys are going to want a tighter pattern as well. It's not the worst pattern we've ever seen, but we've definitely seen way better out of these shells. So I was definitely hoping for a little bit better from this setup, being that it's a budget setup, but I guess we kind of got what we got. It's not what I'm looking for, but if it's the only thing you had, it would be good enough out to 40 yards, I suppose. But definitely not anything I'd call impressive, that's for sure. Okay, and here's the wad from that shell, and as you can see, pretty typical Winchester wad, just like the ones they use in the longbeard shells. And there's nothing stuck down in there except a couple pieces of grass from where it landed, but looks good there. But I am seeing on a couple of the ends of these petals here, there are these little tiny snag pieces, which I don't know, that's not a ported choke, so did it catch on the transition from that 3-inch shell to that 3.5-inch chamber on that shotgun, or from the transition from the barrel to the choke? I don't know, but definitely looks like it might have snagged a little on something, which could have led to the pattern being a little bit more open. But just by looking at the scars on the outside of this wad here, I just don't think it's enough constriction. So with today's combination, I think the wad did about as good as what it could have done, with the slight maybe possibility that it might have snagged on something, I guess. All right, y'all. Well, what did you think about that pattern right there? Definitely a little bit disappointing for what I was kind of hoping for anyway. It is a budget shell with a budget choke, so seeing that result isn't necessarily anything I'd call super surprising, but I was definitely hoping for a little bit better. I just think it's not enough constriction overall. But if it's what you had to work with, it would be good enough out to 40 yards. Past that, I don't think I'd push it, but inside of 40, you would be good enough anyway. So definitely not anything I'd call super impressive, that's for sure. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments, as always. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you hoping for a little bit better? If you've tried this setup or run these shells or that Truglo 679 and your 835, what kind of results have you seen out of them? And is there another shell or choke combo that you might want to see with either those Winchester Super X's or that Truglo Gobble-Stopper as well? Let me know all that down below. But I guess at the end of the day, is it good enough? Yes. Is it what I'm looking for? No. And I think that's probably going to be what you guys pretty well think about it as well. But with that being said, I've got some more things to film out here today for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested, but I'm going to get back to it. So I'll see y'all in the next one.